Let the doors be open. Que l'on ouvre les portes. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, we have a historic opportunity today. For the first time, we, the people's representatives, must vote whether we are for or against tax havens. Voting for my motion would be putting an end to the big banks and multinationals being able to hide their profits in Barbados. Voting against the motion is encouraging them to carry on doing so. Henceforth, it would be done with the support of the political class. If some of you believe with all your hearts that this is desirable to have these tax havens, it concerns you. But I invite you to remember that we speak on behalf of the people. At home, people are disgusted by tax havens. They have the impression of working harder than ever before and being squeezed like lemons with fewer and fewer good quality services. They have the impression they're being tricked and that our institutions and society are corrupt. It's up to you to judge what gestures these citizens expect on your behalf.
Saga Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, responding to an invitation by Engineers Without Borders, I had the opportunity to visit Kenya with the Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill. What we witnessed there was extraordinary. Creative minds strategizing ways of impact economically and socially. I met a woman entrepreneur innovating for the success of her small business. Children striving towards excellence, their future doctors, lawyers, tradespeople. I saw it in their eyes. If they got the opportunity, they will succeed. Mr. Speaker, I speak from experience. 25 years ago, I was a girl child striving for opportunity in a developing country. Uniform dusty, but eyes gleaming. Today, I'm even more committed to work with the Minister for International Development to further the partnership between Canada, Kenya, and other African nations. As a donor country, Africa is and should remain a priority for us. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business recently named Barrie the third most progressive city out of 122 in the country for entrepreneurial startups in 2016. Tech companies like Fresh Spoke and G-Shift, web designers Tiger Shark, fresh food producer Not Your Granny's Granola, realtors Mark and Joanna Ferris, the Mortons of KKP, and Chad and Sandra Ballantyne of the Creative Space are just some of the examples of excellence in local entrepreneurship. I commend Barrie City Council, Zvi Lifshivs of Invest Barrie, and many others for their focus on supporting the creation of startups and for promoting a sound environment for jobs and jobs growth. Mr. Speaker, these small businesses are not vehicles for rich people to avoid paying taxes, as the Prime Minister believes. They are the drivers of jobs and the lifeblood of our economy. Raising taxes on small business is the wrong approach, and the government's tax and spend agenda puts the success of these companies in jeopardy, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, October 11th, I met with representatives of ANCOP, an organization that helps families, children, and the homeless. They are there to meet the needs of the poor.
ANCOP, which literally means answering the cry of the poor, builds homes, feeds the hungry, educates children in Canada and all around the world. Alex Bocarin, Willie Singonege, along with others in our Filipino community, they are proud of their Filipino background, yet are fiercely Canadian. They remind us of the importance of family, faith, and social justice. ANCOP, thank you for your service to our community. It is truly a testament to the values and principles we all hold dear. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As an ecologist, I know how important scientific research is to this country, particularly that done by young scientists with their brilliant curiosity, exploring the world through fresh eyes. And that is why I was so happy today to meet with the Liber Aero Fellows. These young Canadian postdoctoral scientists tackle management challenges and conservation issues with novel analyses, novel perspectives, and novel collaborations, with subjects as diverse as climate change, marine ecosystems, grasslands, birds, butterflies, bumblebees, and bats. This program takes its name from the Latin words for I will be free, reflecting the importance of the independent research. They're here in Ottawa to learn how the results of their studies can be heard in the halls of government, and I can assure this House that we will be hearing regularly from them and from the new fellows that join their ranks year by year.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, remarkable and outstanding feats occur every day alongside ordinary acts that have major repercussions. Some, like Liliane Bessette, risk their lives. This young woman from Saint-Jean saved a man. She received the Medal of Bravery, one of the highest honors in our country. Others, like Dr. André Gamache, help victims of disaster. His efforts have allowed Haitians from the village of La Brousse to rebuild their village. He has just received the Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers. Every day, community groups work, often in the background, and they help people deal with the hardships they face in a dignified manner. These pillars of our society do not always receive the honors that they deserve. I thank them, therefore, because their actions inspire all of us and help us to do our work while bearing in mind that we all want to make Canada a better place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the Stanley Cup will be in Brockville, Ontario, in my riding of Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. It will be on display in the Thousand Islands Mall, just steps from my constituency office, for just over an hour. It will be displayed by Randy Sexton, a Brockville native who is currently the Pittsburgh Penguins Director of Amateur Scouting. A Brockville Sports Hall of Fame member, it wasn't Mr. Sexton's skills on the ice that led him to be part of a Stanley Cup winning team. Rather, he says his character, team-first attitude, competitiveness, and passion make the difference, and it is those attributes that he likes to instill in youth today. He looks forward to displaying the cup in his hometown to help inspire people. And as he says, I hope somewhere along the line that even if it's one person, one child, one teenager, I can inspire them to dream big.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Brampton East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a great day for Brampton and a great day for Canada. The province of Ontario announced this morning that Brampton will be getting a much-needed university. A university that's going to create over 1,800 permanent jobs in Brampton. I want to congratulate Mayor Madam Linda Jeffrey and all the City Council for working so hard to get this much-needed university to Brampton. I also want to congratulate my fellow members of Parliament from Brampton, who have worked very, very hard over the past year to ensure that the university was a much important decision for the province of Ontario to award it to the City of Brampton. And I look forward to building a world-class university in the City of Brampton, and I invite everybody in this House to come visit our university once it's built in the near future. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, today is the opening night of the Toronto Raptors season. So go Raptors, go!
The Honourable Member for Nipissing to Miscommand.
Mr. Speaker, the 2016 New Liskeard Bikers Reunion took place in my riding from July 1st to 3rd and was once again a resounding success. For 15 years, motorcycle enthusiasts from across North America made the pilgrimage to New Liskeard, Ontario to join the Freedom Ride and help raise money for the local community cancer care program. L'homme d'affaires.
The businessman responsible for organizing this event, Mr. Barry Phippen, announced that after 15 years, this year would be the last Bikers Reunion.
Very humble beginnings in 1999, Barry was the heart and soul of this annual event, which attracted over 6,000 bikers and 25,000 visitors to the area. This year, $165,000 was raised, bringing the 15-year total to over $1 million. I would like to thank Barry and his team and volunteers for their hard work and dedication to this extraordinary cause. The world needs more Barry Phippens.
The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, it's been just over a year that the people of my riding have given me their trust to represent them. 1 year of pure happiness working both with mayors, prefects, and other organizations and people across my riding. On top of that, I have discovered the majesticness of the landscape of my riding. There are many footpaths that would make you just forget any troubles you have in your life. Thank you for the trust that you put in me to be your voice here in Ottawa. And I repeat today that I wish to give back to my riding everything that it deserves. And I thank particularly my family for allowing me once again to live my dream.
The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This past weekend, I had the honor of attending a wonderful Diwali gala hosted by the Hindu Vedic Cultural Society in Surrey, under the leadership of President Satish Kumar, Purushottam Goyal, Manish Goyal, Karan Goyal, and Kapil Goyal. For Hindus, Diwali is a time to remember the release from exile of Lord Rama, his wife, and his brother. For Sikhs, the celebration known as Bandi Chhod Divas marks the anniversary of Guru Har Gobind Ji's freedom from imprisonment and return to the Golden Temple. To all in Surrey Newton and across the country celebrating this Sunday, I wish you and your families a very happy Bandi Chhod Divas and very happy Diwali.
Honourable member for Saint-Boniface-Saint-Vital. On October 13th, I participated in the Franco-Manitoban Society's annual general meeting. During that meeting, the Francophone community celebrated the return of the long-form census. It also indicated its desire to see the return of the Court Challenges program. The community also marked the challenges in terms of funding for Francophone media and attracting Francophone immigrants, which has been emphasized by the Official Languages Committee. Tomorrow night, they will hold an extraordinary meeting to vote on an important strategic plan that were the result of work done by the community over the last year. Its goal is to ensure our vitality for future generations. We are a tenacious, diverse, and vibrant community, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
The honourable member for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, each day over 600,000 barrels of oil are imported into Eastern Canada. The top source countries are the U.S., Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Nigeria, Norway, and Angola. The oil, which arrives via large tankers and rail, represents millions of dollars taken out of the Canadian economy every single day. The math here is simple. Oil is already being used, but it's not Canadian oil. Not a single greenhouse gas emission is being reduced. Simply allowing the market to switch to Canadian oil would increase Canadian jobs, increase funding for Canadian healthcare, education, and other social programs, and increase our own control over the environment. These are undeniable wins on all counts for all Canadians. Energy East would create thousands of jobs across the country and bring in billions of dollars in tax revenues, desperately needed as this Liberal government grapples with budget deficit projections that seem to increase almost daily. It's time for the Prime Minister to show some leadership on this file for the good of all Canadians.
The honourable member for Canada Carleton.
Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui, un Canadien.
Mr. Speaker, one Canadian out of 35 is a veteran, and on average, these are younger and more diversified than in the past. We have to say that without a uniform, most Canadians would not even recognize them.
The Veterans Among Us campaign, veterans of the Canadian Forces and RCMP are asked to wear their medals and insignia on the 1st and 30th of November. I hope all Canadians will take the time to express their appreciation to these veterans who are so deserving of our recognition. And I would like to encourage my colleagues during this month of remembrance to honor their sacrifice through action and leadership in this chamber based on our respect for each other. So I invite all Canadian Forces, RCMP, and first responder veterans, including my colleagues in this place, to wear their medals and insignia on the 1st and 30th of November in honor of all who have served.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Outremont.
Speaker, hate crimes targeting Muslim Canadians have tragically become more frequent in recent years, and each time we hear of another, it weighs heavily on our hearts, because we know that Canada is fundamentally a country of peace. Nous célébrons la diversité.
We celebrate our diversity and differences. That's part of who we are. But these values have to be protected. These sparks of hate must not be condoned. We cannot do nothing. History has taught us that well. We must fight against the hate that's carried out against any group of person because of their religion, their ethnic origins, their language, or their sexual orientation.
We fight hate perpetrated against the Muslim community and denounce in this House Islamophobia in all of its forms.
On behalf of all New Democrats, I want to offer my support to the Muslim community of Sept-Îles and remind all Muslim communities in Canada that we stand with them.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen, Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, reading the latest Parliamentary Budget Officer report, I could not help but notice that the PBO stated that had the Liberal government not booked increased Liberal spending in the 2015-2016 fiscal year, the government would have reported a $2.9 billion surplus. And I mention this as the Finance Minister has contested this fact multiple times. I hope now that the facts are known, the Finance Minister will correct the record that his government was in fact left a surplus. And we also know yesterday that the Prime Minister was quoted as saying he would not break his promises. Yet the Prime Minister was elected on a promise to run a modest $10 billion a year deficit budget. The fact is, we know that these Liberal promises have been broken, and it's small wonder that young workers yesterday were protesting against the Prime Minister, as ultimately they know they will be the ones paying the bill. Mr. Speaker, my constituents would also like to see this Liberal government keep their promises, including the election promise of a balanced budget by the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Thank you.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to acknowledge the agreement that was reached last evening between the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador and the Innu Nation, the Nunatsiavut Government and the Nunatuavut Community Council regarding Muskrat Falls. A number of concerns surrounding human health, Indigenous food security and environmental protection were addressed after 12 hours of negotiations by strong leadership on all sides. Make no mistake, the deal reached last evening sets a new standard for Indigenous relations in Newfoundland and Labrador. It is an issue that is of grave importance to our communities and one that we care deeply about as Labradorians and one we know that our government and Canadians care deeply about as well. I look forward to seeing these continued partnerships between all leaders, all governments and all people in our province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, while the battle to retake Mosul from the Islamic State is underway, the Prime Minister isn't being transparent with Canadians about our role in these combat operations. He called it a training mission, but we've learned through social media that our troops are on the front lines and engaging the enemy. This is serious. Why is the Prime Minister withholding information about our true role in this conflict instead of being transparent and admitting our troops are engaged in combat? Canadians should learn about this on Twitter.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians can be proud of the men and women of the Canadian Forces who continue to step up, put their lives on the line in places all around the world while they stand for our values. The fact is, we have sent them on a mission that is important in terms of supporting and assisting and training the local forces to take back their towns, their communities. We are engaged, as we predicted we would be engaged, in a mission that is dangerous but very important to make sure that Canada does its part in the fight against Daesh.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We support our troops 100%, but this is about transparency. It's been regular practice for the government to provide technical briefings to the media and to Canadians when our soldiers are deployed in battle. Top commanders were made available to explain the threat that our soldiers faced, but the Prime Minister has changed that policy. For political reasons, he promised to end a combat mission that he's actually expanding. Will the Prime Minister be transparent and resume these briefings so Canadians can know exactly what our men in uniform are facing.
Honourable Prime Minister. Right on.
We have changed somewhat the approach that the previous government had. We will not put our men and women in the Canadian Forces in harm's way for communications purposes. We remain open and transparent about what this mission is and what the extraordinary work they are doing, but we will not compromise the safety for a communications exercise here at home.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, we learned troubling facts about discrimination against some of our soldiers in the armed forces. This is discrimination based on sexual orientation. The Prime Minister is aware of this because the member for Louise Saint-Laurent gave him, on March 21st, a letter from Lucie Lebel on this subject. 7 months later, she's still waiting for an answer from the Prime Minister. Why hasn't he answered these veterans? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, we remain very concerned by discrimination and intolerance in any situation. And this very troubling report about the armed forces is, of course, troubling. We are following up, and as you know, this government is always ready to stand up and defend the rights and freedoms of everyone, particularly in vulnerable communities. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister put in place rules in black and white regarding ministerial conduct for fundraising, and he did this because he knows that it's wrong to have ministers charging $1,500 on behalf of the Liberal Party of Canada to have a meeting on a government file. Yet that's exactly what's happening. And sadly, the people of Ontario know this very well. Is the Prime Minister now taking fundraising advice from Kathleen Wynne?
Prime Minister.
I think it's important to remind Canadians that the federal system has some of the strictest fundraising rules and expectations of any jurisdiction in this country. The fact is there are still jurisdictions in Canada that have no limits on personal donations, that allow corporate developers, allow unions to donate. We have a system that has very strict limits on only personal donations and total transparency. Canadians can know that the federal system around fundraising is secure, transparent, and ethical.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we know those rules because we actually brought them in. But there's a word for the Prime Minister's attempt to defend the Liberal fundraisers. Mr. Speaker, what we need is for them to follow the rules. And Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows, he knows very well what's happening is wrong. And he shouldn't be defending this. Canadians shouldn't have to pay $1,500 to access their government. The Prime Minister put clear rules on ethics and accountability in place, and he and his ministers are now violating them. Does he really believe his own rules for open and accountable government, or is this document...
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The members opposite, indeed all Canadians, know that the level of access that Canadians have, including Canadians who disagree with this government, to this government, is unprecedented. Whether it's town halls with Canadians who disagree with me, whether it's pre-budget consultations that the Finance Minister is doing across the country, we are an open and accessible government that you do not have to pay a cent to hear your concerns. That is what Canadians expect. We follow all the rules and laws around fundraising. That is why we're proud that we have one of the strictest regimes around fundraising of political parties in the country.
Order. Order. On a député d'Outremont.
Political fundraising.
The member for Outremont.
Mr. Speaker, we do know that there's political fundraising that may currently be legal, but is also clearly unethical. Now, on November 27, 2015, the Prime Minister recognized this when he instituted new ethics rules for members of his cabinet, and he boasted about that. These rules clearly prohibit, and I quote, preferential access to government or appearance of preferential access for political donors. Now, if the Prime Minister is indeed serious about setting the bar higher, why does he not do as the Ethics Commissioner has suggested and put his rules into law?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Canadians can be reassured that at the federal level, we have some of the strictest limits on donations of anywhere in the country. There are still places where developers can give unlimited amounts of money to political parties here in this country. At the federal level, we cannot. We have $1,500 maximal donations per year on personal limits and total transparency as to who gives that money. That means that there are no ethical contradictions between fundraising for your party and...
Remind members that most members in the House can hear things they may or may not like without reacting and are able to wait their turn to speak. So let's have the rest of us do that, please.
The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, so the question is clear. If the Prime Minister believes in his own rules, why does he stay silent when his ministers ignore those rules? Let's be clear, we're not talking about a spaghetti dinner in a church basement. We're talking about selling privileged access to a federal minister to the very wealthy. If he can't be bothered to enforce his own fundraising rules, will he give the Ethics Commissioner the power to do so in his place? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in our federal system, we already have very clear rules about political donations. It's impossible for anyone to give more than $1,500 per year to a political party. This is done very transparently, with a very high level of accountability that Canadians expect. At the same time, this government is the most open and accessible of any government in the history of Canada. We regularly meet with people with very different views. We regularly meet Canadians with a wide range of concerns, and that's what people expect from us. The Honourable Member for Outremont. The Prime Minister says there is no relationship more important than his relationship with Aboriginal peoples. However, he refuses to award the $155 million ordered by the courts to end discrimination that Aboriginal children have been enduring for far too long. Can the Prime Minister confirm in this House that his government will support our motion to end this discrimination against Aboriginal children? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government understands how important it is to repair the relationship with Aboriginal peoples in this country and to demonstrate respect in our commitment to them. And it's also important to work in partnership to tackle the big challenges that they are facing. That's why we've made historic investments over a period of 5 years, investments of $8.4 million, because we know that investing in the future of young Aboriginals means investing in the future of our country. And this is important. It's important for our country to be fair and open. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
This tribunal has issued a historic ruling that the government discriminates against First Nations children in its delivery of child welfare services on reserves. Since that ruling, the tribunal has issued 2 further compliance orders to force the Liberals to act. Instead of continuing to fight First Nations children in court, will the Prime Minister support our motion to put an end to this discrimination?
Honourable Prime Minister.
We know that Canadian governments over the past years and indeed generations have failed Indigenous peoples with not giving them the respect, the tools, or the support needed to be able to be successful. We know that is something that is going to take time to turn around, but why we are investing a historic $8.4 billion over the next 5 years to begin to fix these terrible wrongs. But we know there is much more to do, and we continue to work on that.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has showed us that he's incapable of concluding large-scale trade agreements. Why does the Prime Minister prefer dealing with fundraising issues for the Liberal Party rather than signing trade agreements that will benefit all Canadians? The Honourable Minister of International Trade. Mr. Speaker, Canada has done its job, and we remain committed to getting CETA signed when the European Union is ready. I can't say the same of the Conservatives. When we came to power, this very important agreement was stalled because the Conservatives could not get the deal finished with the EU. We have now done our job. Now it's up to the Europeans to do theirs.
Jean.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Europeans must be very proud to hear that they haven't done their job. Like Mr. Barroso, for example, he came to Canada to speak to Mr. Harper about this agreement. I wonder how he feels about being told he hasn't done his job. There was an agreement that we gave to them. They didn't get it done. Now, do we want forestry workers to pay $1,500 to participate in a fundraising activity so that we can finally get the softwood lumber agreement done? The Honourable Minister of International Trade. Mr. Speaker, our government has delivered the goods for Canadians. I can't say the same for the former government. The only thing they did, along with Mr. Barroso, was to have parties where they celebrated an agreement that wasn't even completed. CETA was stalled under the previous government. Our government has done the work we needed to do to push the agreement forward, and now Europe needs to do its work.
Key Road.
Mr. Speaker, the Globe and Mail reports that the Liberals took deliberate steps to keep their Cash for Access fundraisers secret and exclusive, using internet protocols to keep them out of search engine results. Now the Minister of Finance is set to attend another fundraiser at the home of a registered lobbyist for HoC Communications, and Google search produces no results. If these fundraisers are above board and ethical, why are the Liberals trying so hard to keep them secret? And what other unethical behavior are they covering up?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to take a quick moment because there's many communities that will be celebrating this weekend. So I'd like to wish all members in this House and all Canadians a happy Diwali and happy Bandi Chhor Divas. To answer the member's question, and I know the member knows very well that federal politics is subject to some of the strictest rules when it comes to the financing legislation, and I can assure the member that everybody on this side of this House complies with all of the rules. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals use the privilege of government to raise money for themselves. This time, the Finance Minister charged $1,500 a ticket just to meet with him. Young Canadians can't afford to spend 2 months' rent in order to be consulted. Times are tough for everyday Canadians, yet the Liberals will make everything cost more for everyone with a carbon tax. Now, I know these tickets probably cost about, one shoe of the finance minister's, but when will he stop padding Liberal pockets, stop hurting Canadian families, and get Canadians back to work?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government ran on a commitment to engage with Canadians, to work with Canadians. We ran on a platform, and we are committed to advancing that platform. We committed to a more open, more transparent, more accessible government. We have reduced taxes on the middle class. We have increased taxes on the 1%. We will continue to make the investments that we are making to ensure that Canadians have a government that they can continue to work with. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
So, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to Cash for Access fundraising events, the Liberals keep saying they're following the rules, but that's just not the case. The Prime Minister's own rules clearly state ministers should not grant preferential access to stakeholders. Mary Sherman, the chairman of Apotex, is helping organize the Finance Minister's next Cash for Access event in Toronto. So the Finance Minister defends these secret fundraisers as being part of the budget consultation process. Mr. Speaker, when did secret events at the homes of millionaires become legitimate parts of the budget consultation process?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member is intentionally confusing an open and transparent budget consultation process with lawful and ethical fundraising. The federal rules are some of the strongest in the country, and the member knows that we follow all rules, and he knows it very well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member order.
So,
Member
Mr.
for
Speaker,
Red Deer Lacombe.
these events are not open to all Canadians. Most Canadians can't afford the cover charge to get into these special secret consultations. So, once again, the Apotex chairman is helping organize the finance minister's November High Roller event. Apotex has lobbied the finance minister staff multiple times. They've lobbied the innovation minister, the international trade minister, and the health minister. Plus, Apotex is suing the government for $500 million. Now, does the Prime Minister really expect Canadians to believe that these donations are not buying special access to his cabinet?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I will repeat that federal politics is subject to some of the strictest political financing legislations and regulations in the country, and the party fully complies with the Elections Act in all cases. When the rules are followed, no conflicts of interest can exist, and we will continue to follow the rules. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Jonquière.
Honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, this weekend the minister walked away from the negotiation table with Wallonia, and since then the government has refused to budge on the deadline. Millions of Europeans and millions of Canadians are concerned by this agreement. Furthermore, yesterday the Prime Minister indicated his support for another agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I have two questions for this government. Will the minister commit to fixing the free trade agreement with Europe? And will she finally admit that her government supports the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which will lead to thousands of job losses for Canada? The Honourable Minister for International Trade. Mr. Speaker, I'm frankly stunned that the NDP has not managed to support an agreement that has the support of socialist politicians across Europe. Last week, the Vice Chancellor of Germany, a Social Democrat, said that CETA is a good and modern agreement that gives us an excellent opportunity to implement good and fair rules for globalization. Manuel Valls, the Socialist Prime Minister of France, said that this is a good agreement.
Did you call me? Mr. Speaker, the NDP supports trade with Europe, but this deal is too important to get wrong. The fact is, millions of Canadians share similar concerns about CETA as Europeans. Where are the consultations with Canadians about fixing this deal? And speaking of consultations, the Trade Committee has been doing the minister's work of consulting on the TPP. At yesterday's Youth Summit, the Prime Minister signaled his support of the TPP. Will the minister finally admit what we've known all along, that the Liberals support the job-killing TPP?
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I am frankly astonished that the NDP can't get behind a deal that has the full support of socialists across Europe. Last week, the Vice Chancellor of Germany, who is a Social Democrat, said, and I quote, "CETA is a good and modern agreement, providing us with a great opportunity to set fair and good rules for ongoing globalization." Manuel Valls, Socialist Prime Minister of France, calls it an exemplary deal. Are there any trade deals the NDP will ever support?
Honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just said a moment ago that he doesn't trust senior members of the Canadian Forces to be open and transparent and give briefings on the mission in Iraq. That is ridiculous, and he should stand and apologize in this place. Despite the Liberals' claim that Canada's training of the Peshmerga is ongoing, generals have confirmed that the operations have shifted away from training. Our contribution to the battle to retake Mosul was supposed to include a field hospital, but the Liberals couldn't get it done. Will the Defence Minister take responsibility, lift the curtain of secrecy, and confirm to this House that he has sent our troops to the front line without proper medical support?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, the Canadian Forces are engaged in an anti-ISIL coalition. There was a meeting here in Europe this week, and we are proud partners in that coalition. At this time, the coalition is pursuing its mandate to advise and to assist and to train, and it has not gone beyond that mandate.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I think that the Parliamentary Secretary should change his response because it's not up to date. Last month we learned from Canadian Armed Forces staff that the mission had changed and developed. But this development was hidden from Canadians. Canadians still don't know exactly what our soldiers are doing in Iraq. There are rumors that they are doing more than just advising, that they are actually seeing combat. The government prefers to hide this information rather than being transparent. When we were in power, we were more transparent about what our soldiers were doing, and we did so without endangering their operations. When will the government finally be transparent with Canadians and tell them the truth? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The honourable member is wrong. The mandate has not changed. It is a train, assist, and advise mission. In addition, we have provided air support, and then we are in the process of providing hospital services as the fight proceeds. And to think of the honourable member's party as an open and transparent party, Mr. Speaker, is in some respects a contradiction in terms.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, that's a ridiculous answer. Despite the deafening silence by the government, commanders of the Canadian Armed Forces confirmed that the mission against ISIS has evolved. Yesterday, the Defence Minister wouldn't rule out putting our troops on the ground in Syria. This despite the fact that the Prime Minister once said his position is clear: expanding the mission into Syria, committing our armed forces to the dangers of an ill-defined combat mission does not serve our national interest. Now, is the Minister aware that he has contradicted the Prime Minister? Why are the Liberals saying one thing in opposition and quite a different thing in government?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as I said in the previous answer, the mandate has not changed. We remain committed to an advise and assist and training mission. We are an important and committed partner to the international coalition against Daesh. We will assess the needs of the coalition as time goes on, but under this current mandate, our mission is focused in Iraq.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government's lack of transparency is troubling. Yesterday, the minister wouldn't rule out a possible expansion of the anti-ISIS mission in Syria. When we expanded the anti-ISIS mission, we put the vote to Parliament, and the Liberals were against it. Now that they're considering a mission in Syria, will they submit that decision to a vote in Parliament, or will they continue to operate in secret without informing Canadians?
Mr. Speaker, we are currently focused on the Train, Assist and Advise mission that is in Iraq with our coalition partners. We are not taking military operations in any place else. And we are not about to engage in speculation as to where anything might go in this conflict.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have made a lot of infrastructure promises to Canadians and municipalities. The second phase of their plan is still being developed, and here we find out that privatizing our infrastructure is on the table. The Minister of Finance is talking about privatizing the bridges and airports, getting private sector investment. Does the government still intend to favor privatization and sell our investments abroad?
Infrastructure and communities.
Mr. Speaker, we are delivering on our historic commitment to invest $120 billion in Canadian communities from coast to coast to coast. In order to do that, we are engaging with the municipalities, we are engaging with the provinces and territories, and we will also engage with the private sector to do more and help Canadian municipalities build the necessary infrastructure they need for the communities.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly.
Commitment to privatization of public infrastructure in the last election campaign. We promised investments in infrastructure, but there's something sketchy about the rollout of the second phase. While the minister is holding talks behind closed doors on an infrastructure investment bank, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is worried that funds promised for public transit and social housing, among other things, will end up diverted to that scheme. Can the infrastructure minister explain what good it is listening to municipalities if the finance minister is going to listen to people who can pay to get into these rich fundraisers?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I am proud of the unprecedented level of cooperation that we have with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, with the big city mayors. As a matter of fact, last week, Minister of Finance, myself, as well as Minister of Environment, all three of us met with Federation of Canadian Municipalities as well as big city mayors to listen to them, to work with them, to deliver on the commitments that we made.
Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Canadian Heritage tell us how the programs offered by her department support the visual languages and the vitality of our minority language communities across this country? The Honourable Minister. I would like to thank my colleague, the member for Rivière-des-Mille, for a question. We are proud to support official languages and to promote our minority language communities across the country. This is why we have a program involving over $300 million to help these communities. We want to reaffirm our social contract that we have in this country.
When the Prime Minister got an invite to the Canadian Labour Congress Young Workers Summit, he thought it was a ticket to selfie heaven. Instead, youth turned their backs on him because he turned his back on them. Most young people will get their first job from small and medium-sized business, but new payroll and carbon taxes will leave less money for these job creators to pay young employees. Why is the Prime Minister taxing away the opportunities of our youth?
The Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to indicate that we are all in on helping young Canadians find a meaningful career, both in terms of educational opportunities and skill development. As we face the new industrial revolution, Canadians are becoming prepared for change. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Like young people, disabled Canadians want the opportunity to work. 1 million of them already do, and private sector companies like Tim Hortons, RBC, and KPMG want to continue hiring them. But a disabled worker earning minimum wage can lose as much as $1.20 in clawbacks and taxes for every new dollar he earns. No one can afford to work with a 120% tax rate. Will the Finance Minister show leadership to remove this poverty trap and make work pay?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to talk about the enhancements that we've provided to all Canadians in terms of skill development and access to new opportunities in the labour force. Mr. Speaker, we are continuing to support small business and reduction in EI payments, work share opportunities by doubling the length of opportunity and providing more opportunities for small business to create new jobs for Canadians.
Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. A report that the Finance Minister commissioned is recommending that the Liberals spend $40 billion to set up an infrastructure bank. And, Mr. Speaker, is it the Minister's plan to take that $40 billion away from infrastructure projects already promised to communities, or is this plan to burden working Canadians with yet another tax?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to talk about the Advisory Council on Growth that provided their recommendations to me last week. This august group provided us with some important recommendations on how we can amplify the impact of some of the measures we put in Budget 2016. I was very pleased to receive their recommendations. We are studying them and we are considering how we can use their insights as well as our policies to make sure that we can grow our economy for the long term.
Honourable Member for Richmond, Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, first we had the announcement about investing in the Asian Infrastructure Bank. Now we found out, once again, through the media and not here in the House, that the government is looking at setting up a Canadian Infrastructure Bank. The problem is that in both cases we have no idea where the money is going to come from. Mr. Speaker, after out-of-control deficits and new taxes from these Liberals, where does the Finance Minister think that this money is going to come? on the backs of families. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, last week I received the report from our advisory group on economic growth, and the report made important recommendations on how we can increase our economic growth through our policies. We have to consider those recommendations to make sure that we can find a way of stimulating economic growth for Canadians across this country. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, I'm hearing from students who are telling me that they haven't been paid for their summer jobs in various departments. This is really shocking. All employees deserve to be paid, whether they are permanent, temporary, or students. Young people already tend to have precarious work, and this makes it worse. The government owes thousands of dollars to these young Canadians who have already had to hand over high tuition fees. So how many students still haven't been paid, and when does the government intend to pay them?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Public Services and Procurement.
The current problem with pay in the public service is certainly serious. We have many employees across the public service that are in financial difficulty, and this is very frustrating. We know the employees in the department that are involved are working hard, and we are currently working to a schedule, and we will continue to work on this.
Mr. Speaker, the Phoenix pay system is causing havoc for Canadians across the country who are still not getting paid, and the government will likely miss its promised October 31st deadline. When asked, this government had an endless list of excuses on why they can't meet their own timelines. Since they are delaying yet again, what is the minister's new deadline, and what assurances can they give workers that they won't miss this one too?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The ongoing public service pay problems are completely unacceptable, and it's no question that there are many employees that are facing financial hardship as a result. We understand and we feel for those employees, and we know that it's a frustrating situation. We are working extensively to meet the deadline and now are a little behind. However, resolving these cases remains our top priority.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister talked about follow-up and the program on TVA schedules network yesterday talked about the problems of the military and discrimination against veterans. Now, there was a letter that was provided to the Prime Minister in March. Now, that's 7 months ago. Why hasn't the Prime Minister responded to this veterans letter?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
For raising this important question, and it is clearly a historical wrong. It's a societal wrong, it's a government wrong, and it's a department wrong. And in fact, the government is fully engaged on a wide departmental basis to address the very issue that he raises, and I'm rather hoping that we respond in a fulsome way.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on March 21st, the member from Louis Saint Laurent hand-delivered a written letter by Canadian veteran Lucy Laperle to the Prime Minister. In her letter, Lucy detailed her story facing discrimination in the 70s and 80s while in the military because she was gay. Mr. Speaker, it's been 7 months, and the Prime Minister has not even had the decency to acknowledge her letter or her experiences. Why couldn't the Prime Minister have taken a few minutes, Mr. Speaker, to respond to Lucy's letter?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as I said in an earlier response, this is clearly a historical wrong, and it's a wrong by the part of the government over prior to 1992. It's a wrong by the Department of Defense, and it's a wrong by other departments. The letters have been received. In order to be able to have a proper response to the honourable person's requirement, we need to address this on a whole-of-government approach. The Defence Department takes the view that it is the policy of the Canadian Forces that any member can choose.
The honourable member for Lakeland. Yorkton Melville, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the 90s, Canadian troops were used as test subjects for the malaria drug mefloquine, produced by Apotex. This week, our committee is hearing from veterans who are suffering the horrific side effects of this drug. Shockingly, an Apotex executive is hosting a Liberal Cash for Access event next week, starring yet again the Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, veterans are listening right now for the answer to this question. How can veterans trust Liberals to do the right thing when their party is being financed by fundraisers organized by the chairman of Apotex?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, at the core of my mandate is the health and wellness of the veterans and their families. I know very well that much information is being presented at the Standing Committee this week, and I appreciate the Standing Committee's work in this regard as it will filter into the decisions made by our department. I encourage all the members who have issues regarding military service to come forward to our department. We have 4,000 mental health professionals ready, willing, and able to stand by to assist them, and they are not alone. We are here to help.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Only 26% of members in this House are women, and we know we need to do more to get more women into politics. Can the Minister of Status of Women inform this House of the actions the government is taking to ensure more women can run for office?
Minister.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for her excellent question.
Gender equality and to removing barriers facing women who want to enter politics. However, we still witness some of these barriers in this House, like a frequent lack of respect for women and their contributions. We need to ensure that women can see themselves having a place in politics. Last night, I announced $1 million for Equal Voice to help address these barriers. To quote the Executive Director of Equal Voice, when women feel included in our democratic institutions, they are empowered to participate in political and public life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Edmonton Riverbend.
As Albertans continue to face a devastating jobs crisis, the Liberal government's plan is still missing in action. To add insult to injury, we now have the infrastructure minister telling Albertans we will get through this crisis by, I quote, holding hands together. Whoa! You can't make this stuff up, Mr. Speaker. What's next? Their carbon tax is going to bring us rainbows and unicorns instead of killing more Alberta jobs? Can the Minister of Infrastructure please explain to Albertans exactly how his warm embrace will help put food on their tables and roofs over their heads?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, that we all know that families in Alberta are struggling, and we're working really hard to work with the province and the municipalities to help whichever we can. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say that as of today, we have approved 72 projects in working in consultation with municipalities and provinces with total combined value of $3 billion to create jobs and prosperity for Albertans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec Recording and Video Association at DISC is in desperate straits because of streaming. The written press needs help going digital, and there might be a return of advertising and children's programming. But the Minister of Heritage is continuing to give a blank check to Facebook, Google, and Netflix. So will the minister finally ask her colleague, the Minister of Finance, to make sure that foreign businesses pay their fair share? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for his important question. Given the changes that we've seen in the industry, we have decided to take leadership play a leadership role, and we're going to be consulting all the stakeholders so that we can come up with a new way of doing things so that we can address these issues affecting Canadian content in the digital age. This is an issue around the world, and I am very pleased that we're showing leadership.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Oakville North Burlington, I've long advocated for safe cycling. As founder of Cycle Oakville and working with groups like the Burlington Cycling Advisory Committee, Halton Police, and Share the Road Cycling Coalition. People are concerned about being able to ride safely. Over the years, sadly, we have lost members of our cycling community while riding their bikes. Can the Minister of Transport tell us what he is doing to enhance bike safety?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Speaker, and I certainly can, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Oakville North Burlington for an important question and for involvement in this file.
Safety, as you know, is very important for us, and of course our sympathy goes out to those families and those loved ones of people who have been hurt or killed. We are working with our provincial and territorial counterparts. We have a working group looking into these issues to reduce the number of accidents, and we are working on this issue to improve the situation. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, new reports by the unions show that the Miramichi office is processing only 46 out of the 101 departments' files that are having these departments having difficulty with Phoenix. So that means that Public Services and Procurement Canada is ignoring or hiding the other 55 departments. Mr. Speaker, can the minister, instead of setting meaningless deadlines, finally fix the pay for all of our public service so they can pay their rent and groceries? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the current problems with the Phoenix system are totally unacceptable. We know that this is a very frustrating situation. The minister is working with great determination to fix the problems, and this is a priority for us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Far from being a gift-wrapped package for the new government, in the words of Professor Gus Van Harten, CETA was in fact a ticking time bomb. People who know this file knew that the Europeans were not really happy with this deal. To defuse the ticking time bomb, the new government has a unique opportunity. Fashion this deal in the interest of Europeans and Canadians, remove the offensive investor-state provisions, and get to a deal on the real issues, which are trade. Will the Prime Minister consider removing the investor-state provisions from CETA?
Yeah, Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank the member opposite for her question. The fact is, when we came into government a year ago, we discovered that the CETA deal was in deep trouble. Indeed, Europeans had real concerns about the investor-state dispute mechanisms, and that's why we sat down with the Europeans and we created a new ISDS approach that actually makes it the gold standard, makes it an extraordinary progressive deal that Europe has happily signed on to. We are confident that in the coming days we will see a positive outcome for this historic deal.
It's reasonably quiet up till now. Relatively speaking. Tabling of documents. Order allowed. I encourage members to take their conversations out into the lobby. Tabling of documents. Dépôt de projet de loi.
Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Don Valley East.
Monsieur President.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 34.1 of the Standing Orders, I have the honour of tabling in both official languages copies of the report of the Canadian delegation, of the Canadian Parliamentary Delegation,